What's up, ballers? Jacob here with All Drive No Drop, talking about the 6-0 Black Opal. I am going to break all the specs down, the power, the pop, the spin, give you everything you need to know about this paddle from 6-0. Now, I know fans of 6-0 have been waiting a very long time for a power paddle from 6-0. They haven't been sleeping. They've been in the background working. I think a lot of people are going to like this paddle. It definitely brings the power. But first, let's just start with that price. It's gonna be $250, going down to $225 with the code All Drive No Drop. So actually pretty competitive pricing. I was thinking it could have been, towards the 300s, like the boomstick, some of the Yolas, but going down to $225 after a discount code, pretty reasonable in today's power paddle market. But let's just get into the story, right? What's been going on? Well, they've been innovating, right? They've been doing material research, they've been prototyping, they've refined those prototypes, play testing, break-in testing, graphic design, retooling the factory, just doing all these things to get to this level. They've done hundreds of prototypes, just getting down the way. I think over 500, they said. So what has that led us to? Well, they're bringing most of these technologies to all their paddle lineups. They do already have a Ruby Pro. You can go check that out. There's a few reviews out there. But they will also have a Coral paddle that will be coming out. That's going to be more of their all-court paddle if you don't want the high-end power performance paddle, which is the Black Opal here. So what do we have in the Black Opal? We have the G4 core, which is their foam core. It's a high-density core. It does feel dense, and it is a 14mm core. They also have their Carbon Light, which is a carbon frame that they use in the paddle. They have a shock shield, which is a silicone injected into the grip to dampen vibration. I do believe that does work. The biggest thing here is their Diamond Tough that they're bringing in, which is the carbon fiber infused with diamonds. And this is going to increase the durability of the grit, which hasn't fully been tested by me yet, but I've heard really good things from a lot of the people that have had these for a long time, especially ones that have used the Diamond Tough on the Ruby Pro. I've heard good results. Now, how long will it last? We'll see, but I am so far liking it, and I have not noticed any drop off after 20 hours of play. And then last, we have the Power Gel, which is their proprietary custom developed power gel layer that has shock absorption and elastic properties. Basically, this is the glue help holding everything together, right? Okay. That's awesome. And here you can see a breakdown of all those technologies, just kind of with how it's wrapped up. They also have the NFC chip that is in that end cap. And of course, let's talk about those specs real quick. Like I was saying, you have that G4 foam core coming in a hybrid shape right now, but there will be an elongated and wide body down the road. That timeline is TBD, but we'll expect it a couple months down the road. The facing, that Diamond Tough carbon fiber. The dimensions, classic 6-0 hybrid shape, 16.3 by 7.5 to 7.7, so it gets wider towards the top. 14mm core, 8 to 8.3 ounces is the weight range. Mine came in at 8.15. 5.5 in handle length, 4.125 grip circumference, swing weight of 114 for mine, and 6.54 twist weight. So we have the fully floated core there, using their own proprietary foams. And how does that performance work on the core? That's what we really want to know. Now, the Diamond Tough, all the, the power gel, the shock absorption, all that's great, and but we need to know how it performs, right? So first, let's jump to my weight setup, which I want to talk about before we jump into the gameplay. So stock, look, you can play this paddle stock, it's fine, it's fine. I think stock, it has an average sweet spot size. I don't think the sweet spot size is as big as the Honolulu NFs and the Selkirk Boomstick and the Loco. It's not too far off the Loco though. But with weight, it improves it drastically. I think the biggest problem is towards the bottom. The ball can die a little faster than on other paddles. That's the biggest problem with the sweet spot. Towards the top, it's not as bad, and side to side, it's not as bad, but towards the bottom is a little worse than some of the other top power paddles. But with this weight setup, it does help a lot. I have 4 inches of 0.5 gram weighted tape now. So I use Bodhi tape, weighting tape now for all my stuff. They've switched over from tungsten to weighting tape. So if you need weight, go check that out in the description. So I got 4 inches going from the end of the 0 down, and then 4 inches from the top of the 6 going up. You could end up just doing 9 inches, but I just wanted the 6.0 to show and also have a reference point. So this still is very maneuverable in this hybrid shape with that weight of the 8 inches on each side. Shores up that sweet spot very well and gives it even more power. And we'll talk about those power levels, but this power level is just right in there at the high end of the elite tier with all the other power paddles, the Locos and the Boomsticks. This thing hits very hard. But let's talk about the performance on the court now and jump out there. So the Opal. First, let's talk about the feel, right? So the feel is one of the plusher feeling of the power paddles. I would say if you were asking me which one is it closest to, I would say it's closest to the GX2 Power. Not as soft, but closer to that than like the Loco and the Boomstick. It feels a little denser in that sweet spot, and you get some elite dwell. It's just when you get that dwell, when it comes off, it's kind of coming off pretty violently. I was finding myself launching my drives a little bit and sometimes launching the serves a little too long because it comes off so fast. I was also finding that on the force. So it just takes a little time to get used to. So that feel is pretty good. You're not going to feel as connected to the ball as some of the stiffer paddles, but if you're someone that doesn't like a lot of vibration, doesn't like that stiffness, then the Black Opal is going to be a good fit and feel for you. So how does that Diamond Tough spin perform, right? Well, this is one of the highest spinning paddles that I've recorded. So I think the Diamond Tough so far, as far as the spin production, is elite. How long will it last? I'm not sure, but I haven't had any drop in the spin performance since I've gotten the paddle. So far, so good on that Diamond Tough, which I really, really like. And I think that's going to be a big point for a lot of people. If this Diamond Tough lasts, you know, twice, 3 times, 4 times as long as regular peel ply, then that's a huge home run. Power level, like I said, at the elite end. With this weight setup that I have, I believe it hits harder than the Boomstick elongated for me. Now, just depends if you can handle that weight. For me, it's not a big deal. For others, maybe it is. But stock, you can still play it, or you could just put the weight on the bottom corners or towards the handle, which is really where it needs the weight the most. I just wanted a little bit more boost in power because I'm just power hungry these days. I want more and more and more and more. Power game is really good. Once you learn how to control that power, the drives and the serves are just so much fun. If you're an all drive, no drop type of player, or you're a singles player, this Black Opal is definitely down your alley and you're gonna wanna check it out. Now, like I said, it does feel like the launch angle is a little high. I'm not one to talk about launch angles a lot, but I definitely noticed it in this one. So just keep that in mind. And then as far as drops and drips, still really, really good. I think the drops and drips, they weren't too hard to figure out for me. Once I got used to it, it seemed like I could place the drops and the drips very well. I think the hardest part about this paddle is the resets. With the resets on this paddle, you're letting the paddle do a lot of the work. The thing is, it's not, on the slower shots, it's not super poppy. But once you give the paddle a little speed or the ball's going pretty fast, especially in that mid-court transition, if you're running up after a serve return and they hit a big third drive at you and it's low and dipping, it's hard to keep it under control on that reset because the way the ball comes off the paddle, it's hard to keep it low. I had a lot of ones that I was floating high at first, but you can get used to it and you can get accustomed to it. It just takes a little bit of time. So if you are one to have a harder time on resetting from low during transition, just keep that in mind. Once you get used to it, you can let the paddle do a lot of the work for you, and those resets become pretty nice. This paddle does get some resets back that you might not get back with other paddles just because it can do so much of the work for you. So that pop is a little tricky, right? The pop on those slower shots, not as much, but once you get some ball speed or you get the paddle speed going, the pop is, bordering that elite tier. So it's a little tricky to see, and also you don't get that same feel, right? Because it's a little softer, a little plusher. Dinks, during the dinking game with this power paddle, you would think it would be harder to control, but the dinks were not too hard to control. I liked this in the dinking game. And obviously with this shape, I think this is a great shape for hands battles. So no worries there. Now, where I really like this paddle is on force, like the rolling volleys, forehands, backhands out of the air. You can put a ton of pressure on your opponents with this paddle, with how much power it generates on those like 50 to 70% swings. Feels really, really good there. You can really keep the pressure on when you're hitting those volleys out of the air. So overall, on the court performance, I really enjoyed this paddle. It just takes some getting used to control all of that firepower that this paddle. Let's move on to the stats and see how it breaks down against the other paddles. Okay, so you can see here, I've got it third out of this list of paddles, actually tied with the Gearbox GX2 Power Elongated right below the Selkirk Boomstick. So when I'm doing the serve test, I am doing, I'm serving the ball 10 times, right? And taking the average of that power. Now, if I were to hit drives, which would be a little bit more complicated, harder to reproduce the results, I think you would see a bigger difference just because of the sweet spot size. But when I weight this up and get a similar swing weight as the Selkirk Boomstick, you're gonna have more power with the 6-0 Black Opal. So I think if you're chasing the most power right now and you like hybrid shapes and you're comfortable weighting your paddle up, I think the 6-0 Black Opal would be that top power paddle for me. And as you can see there, I got 2452 on the RPM. Just so much spin on this paddle. Really good with that dwell and that grit. I really enjoyed that. As far as stability goes, which I didn't touch on as much, I think the paddle is actually pretty stable. In the stock form, it's just, outside in the sweet spot, inside to side, it's pretty stable. Just a little bit on the lower side, the upper side. You do feel a little bit of vibration when it's off center. The weight helps it a lot. So power level, obviously, really good. Pop level, like I was touching in the video, it's not the poppiest paddle, just like on the face, still have the Flick F1, but this paddle, when you get it going, it is really poppy. So if you're looking for pop, I don't think you're going to be lacking. If you're someone that doesn't like a super poppy paddle, then I would probably look at the GX2 Power if you wanted something that was like a little easier to control. Now spin, like I was saying, Elite Spin, top spinning paddle I've recorded, and then price, $250, it goes down to $225. Pretty good with all the other things. You're talking about the Loco goes down to $180, Honolulu F $175, and then you got the Boomstick at $333, and the YOLO is at $280. So, not the cheapest, but definitely not the most expensive paddle. So let's go wrap up in the conclusion, and I'll give you my recommendation on if you should buy it. So I think that all the time and research that 6-0 has put into this paddle has been well worth it. I really enjoy this paddle. I think it's a super fun paddle to play with. I mean, I tested so many paddles. There's very rarely a time where I am testing a paddle or reviewing a paddle and I'm like, oh, this one really stands out. So when that happens, I take notice and I appreciate it because, they put so much work into this. I think with the Diamond Tough surface, I think that's going to be a big hit. Obviously going to test it more and I'll keep you updated on my channel, my podcast. Go check that out. But yeah, really enjoy that. I like the feel. I do like that crisper feel sometimes, but sometimes it's kind of rough on my elbow. So I do enjoy the softer, denser, plusher feel. I do like that. So, and I think there's a lot of people out there looking for that. And obviously if you want the Elite Power, then this is just great. And, as a big hybrid player myself, love this 6-0 hybrid shape. If you have any questions for me, please, reach out for $250 going down to $225. I mean, that's just a pretty good price from a big company in today's power paddle market. If you enjoy the video, found everything useful, please drop a like. It really helps grow the channel. And if you want to see more content from me and more podcasts, subscribe. Doing weekly podcasts with Tickle My Pickleball, David. So always appreciate the support there. Thank you very much. Go play some pickleball.